Hey everybody, welcome back to Dad Talk. I am here with David. David, what's going on, man?
Eric, how you doing today, buddy?
Yeah, man, doing all right. I've been following this, pretty closely. Can you give us some updates? I came on here and gave, the updates. You got the 3 1 hour visits earlier this week. You went to that hearing, been waiting 2 days, and then you got something in right before the close of the day. So, what is the latest news?
Sure. Before we get there, can I address some other things that have been going on that
Absolutely.
addresses? First of all, I understand that there's tons of sincere outrage over what's been going on, and it's not just with me. That a lot of people have felt the disgust and disappointment with what's been happening. And with that comes like extreme emotions from some other people, and I understand that. But I just want to remind everybody, like, do not reach out to the courts, and in no way do I want anybody to threaten anybody involved or my ex, the judge's family, anybody. I have no desire for any of that to happen. I don't want that kind of activity is not only not okay, it's not helpful. Um, it's not going to do any good to behave that way. So before we start, I just want to let everyone know if anybody has done that, please stop. Don't do that. I'm not asking anybody to do that. I'm asking you to please not do that, and to use your energy in a more positive way, and try to focus on what's more important, and that's taking care of Corbin and pushing forward with trying to allow him what it is that he ultimately wants, which is more time with his father in the coming days or weeks. So please, if that's something that's in your heart to do, please change your heart.
And I appreciate you saying that, David. That's one of the things, I understand that there was somebody that might have been disgruntled and done that. But guys, what they'll do, you could have a million peaceful parents out here, a million of them. And then you have one bad apple. And then they take that and try to paint that as everybody. That's not what we're doing here. We're talking about a father getting his time with his sick son.
And more
And
importantly, even bigger than that, like if somebody's threatening his family, they have nothing to do with this. And if somebody's threatening him, that's not okay. Like ultimately, that's nothing that I've ever asked for, condoned. It's not just it's not just a distraction from what's really important. It's wrong, and please don't do that.
absolutely. I'm with you 100%. And I pray that you guys will respect those wishes, and you need to. Um, but David, going back to this, we had, is there, before we do that, because, and you guys, you'll just have to stick with us here for a second. We got a lot to go over. Is there anything else that you think we should start out with before we get into the hearing?
You know, just please continue with your prayers for Corbin. I'm not real hopeful that there's going to be a reasonable or respectful of his wishes resolution in the legal system before it's too late. But in the meantime, just keep praying for him, and pray for his comfort right now.
Absolutely. We was looking at something right before we go on. I'm not going to name their names because we're not sitting here trying to cause any type of chaos. But one of the comments that came in, and I'm guessing it's from somebody on the other side, said he was never denied access. I'm not sure why people are so eager to jump on a bandwagon of hate without even considering that this might actually be false information meant to inflame the audience. So, David, talking about being denied access, tell
Sure.
us what was going on.
So, well, I mean, I guess what loose definition this person has of access. The fact of the matter is, and it was discussed, that I'd been allowed when his mother felt like it, and I can explain what her justification was, 30-minute visits once a day, not every day, just the days that she deemed fit for me to be there, after being notified of him being placed in hospice, not by the mother, not even by the physician, but by a friend who happened to be friends with one of her friends. And the message there is that she was happy enough to tell everybody in the world that my kid was in this position, but not me. And then decided to play God with the amount of time that I got with this child, which was no more than 30 minutes at a time on the days that she seemed that was okay. Her justification for that was that she was acting as an agent and messenger for Corbin, which is entirely false. Corbin would never in a million years ask me to see him in his final weeks, possibly as much as 30 minutes a day.
Another thing that has gotten asked, several times, some people see the updates and they don't go back to see what we talked about in the original one. So I'm going to read this one comment from an anonymous user. He said, "I'm still wondering why he was denied access in the first place. Was there a restraining order? What was the reason or excuse provided by the mother?" And I'm going to add on "and or judge" at the end of that.
Sure. No, there's absolutely never been a restraining order. The access denial was that this was an order based on possession that was not prepared to handle such a horrific co-parent that happened to have her 2-week vacation at the time that he was entered into hospice. And instead of doing what was the right thing and to act like a parent who actually loves and cares for her child, she did the selfish thing and kept up the activity that she's kept up for multiple years of doing everything that she can to alienate me from my children.
I know also there was something earlier about the pictures. From my understanding, there is a website that's got these pictures everywhere. Is that not correct?
She's used a Facebook platform to very effectively communicate a message that seems to be, from what I've read and actually observed, very misleading in an attempt to seek attention. And she posts some very horrific photographs of very intimate things with my son. And I'm not sure why anybody would have a problem with photographs being shared now, other than the fact that it doesn't benefit her position, that she is some ultra mother that does nothing but care for her kids, when the fact of the matter is she's used them to torture their father for multiple years.
So they returned something saying the threats were online in writing. I can tell you this, that is something we 100% disavow. And if there is anybody doing that, that is not somebody any of us associate with.
It's not even all that don't associate with it. I don't agree with it. And I would ask them,
all.
Please stop. Please, absolutely.
Please stop.
Yes.
Absolutely. So going back to this emergency hearing, David, it looked like there was going to be some type of relief. I was very happy to come on here and talk to everybody and let them know that you got 3 1-hour visits per day. What kind of happened in that hearing leading up to where we are now?
So on the hearing Monday, lo and behold, as just happened to be there, was a caseworker that was in the courtroom prior to the courtroom doors even being open. And I'm grateful that she was there. So during this hearing, he assigned a caseworker, and by the way, absolutely nothing negative to say about her. She was very compassionate and understanding of the situation. She listened to the proceedings, and then afterwards went to the mother's house and interviewed the mother, interviewed her husband, and interviewed Corbin, and interviewed myself. And she was beyond compassionate and understanding, and did an extremely effective job, I think, given the amount of time that she had to do it. I think that she'd gathered probably a more firm understanding of the situation in 2 days than the judges that have been involved have been able to either comprehend or comprehended but don't care in a matter of years.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people are like, we don't have this side of the story, or we don't have this, or what did this judge do? What did they look? At the end of the day, we have a child that is sincerely ill right now. This should be something in my mind, David, that you shouldn't even need a judge to tell you about visitation. We got the update today, and I waited for you to tell everybody about what happened in that ruling.
Sure.
I'm going to ask you to go ahead and inform everybody of what you was told.
I think it's important to mention that the social worker was asked to testify as to what it is that that she had discovered during the interviews, right? And the most important thing is to note that while the mother says that this 30 minutes that she might or might not grant me voluntarily throughout this was in the best interest of Corbin, because that was his wishes, right? She testified that Corbin told her that he wanted to spend an equal amount of time with both of us. That's it. And ultimately, that's what's most important. We've got a kid who might have a week, might have 3 weeks. We don't know, right? That's on hospice. And his dying wishes are to spend equal amounts of time with his mother and father. And that's what I asked the courts to do.
I guess one of the more important questions I should have asked a little bit earlier: how is your son doing currently?
I haven't. I wasn't able to see him yesterday. I was told by the court to be extremely cautious about disturbing him while he was either tired or sleeping. So, in respecting that statement, I contacted him multiple times yesterday. He was very sleepy. He only got 2 hours of sleep the night before. He'd been throwing up throughout the night, and wasn't able to get much sleep. So I didn't get to see him yesterday. The same situation was going on today, also being respectful of the court's wishes. The same thing occurred. I planned on seeing him regardless this evening, but due to the fact that the orders were issued that referenced a visitation schedule starting tomorrow, I won't be able to update you tomorrow. I did talk to him on the phone. He called me about an hour before we started, said that he again had been throwing up a little bit last night and had several severe nosebleeds. And they plan on giving him some blood product tomorrow, which is also a pretty interesting thing to talk about with regards to this case. But I think he's having a bit of a rough go at it right now.
Has there been any attempt, I'm just curious, has there been any attempts on the court to try to bring you two together and say, we're not going to see any conflict here, just to try to say they want to see you guys work through this without any attorneys or anything involved?
No, I have stated on my side, like if he was able to be, if the court would allow him to move his hospice either to my house or hospital, preferably my house, simply because I want him to be in a place that he's comfortable. I have no pride in which location it is. I do have concern and a lot of emotion around real access, that his mother, her husband, her family would all be welcome in my house. The front door would be open. The bedroom he'd be living in is like directly to the left of the front door. It's right. It's a couple feet in front of the inside the front door. That I would even park an RV in my driveway if they wanted to get sleep and be closer. Even their house is 2 miles from my house, but they'd be welcome to stay in that if they wanted to get a break or some rest. And the entire hearing was spent with her defending why my family shouldn't be allowed to be there, why I shouldn't be allowed to be there except for very limited access, including the 30 minutes. She even testified that after it was pointed out that she had stated that she was acting on Corbin's behalf, by saying that he believed that 30 minutes was adequate, and that after understanding that the testimony of the social worker was that he wanted 50-50 access, when the question was asked of her, so did your opinion change as to whether or not David should be allowed more access than you've given at this point? Her answer was no.
What is the reasoning for, I think we might have covered this. I just got to ask again, for you not to be there, for your parents, for your family, because I think sometimes people get caught up in the mom and dad angle part of this, but there is your mom, your dad, your family that probably wants to see your son as well. Why wouldn't we want your family to have access?
Well, when we go through the order, I can explain to you that, again, technically, they have been getting out. Per this order, you could technically say that my parents have been given access. Now, you can't say that my brother or my sister, his aunts and uncles, have been given access. And you can't say that his cousins have been getting access. You can't say that his friends whose parents are more friendly with me are going to have access to him. She does have complete access for those folks at her house, but this order technically gives access to both of my parents and me, and that's it. Well, and his brother, but we both agreed, no matter where he ended up, that his brother should be with him during this time. But I find it pretty disturbing that even with, and I'll get into the amount of access that I now have, I find it pretty disturbing that I can't even share that with my loved ones.
All right, so let's start with you first. What kind of access do you have currently?
Sure. So prior to this order, the initial order was that I was granted 15-minute blocks twice a day of FaceTime with Corbin. After the second hearing, or the second appearance, where we had a hearing with my ex and myself there, that moved to me being able to spend 1 hour of time with Corbin 3 times a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once in the evening. After this last hearing, and after the testimony of the social worker, the judge ruled that he was going to remedy this by allowing me 2 2-hour blocks of times a day. But every 5th day, I have no access to Corbin except for 2 15-minute FaceTime calls a day.
Wow. All right, so
Eric, it's really simple math, right?
Yeah.
Not only is it reasonable without the input of a child, just to assume that there's 2 parents, there's 24 hours in a day, and when your child's dying, that 24 divided by 2, real simple math, is 12. It's just that easy. And if she can't be mature enough to spend and share 24 hours a day while in my presence, then the simple answer is 12. And anything less than that is like either somebody doesn't understand math, or they don't understand kids, or they don't understand humanity. But it makes absolutely no sense.
And there was another part of this that really upset me. What about your parents? What kind of access are they going to be allowed with this ruling?
So I was given some extra time on Father's Day because it is Father's Day. And in that part of the order, he graciously extended that he would allow my parents to be present for 90 minutes. And that will be the last 90 minutes that they get to see their grandchild before he dies. And there's absolutely no other provision in this order to allow them to be there. So they will know that my father on his Father's Day gets 90 minutes to say goodbye to his grandchild, and we'll never see him again.
And I think the part that every bit of it is upsetting. But I think until this point in time, from what you know, he still doesn't know what time he has left, correct?
He does not.
And so if they're there to say goodbye and he doesn't know this is happening, how do you...
How is that? First of all, it's not fair that any child it's not fair that any child has to say goodbye to a grandparent. Because they're leaving, and not the grandparent. I'm sure in the minds of whoever created this document that was well intended, but I'm not sure that they could be less compassionate with a piece of paper than they were. That is absolutely unacceptable. To deny my parents any limited time that was awarded to me, they should be there if they want to be. And I can promise you Corbin would want nothing different. But ordering grandparents the opportunity to go say goodbye to their grandchild and to make it their final goodbye, knowing that he might be alive for weeks afterwards, maybe days, it just speaks to the level of humanity that doesn't exist in some people's minds.
I'm with you, brother. Cousins,
they're not allowed. He's got cousins the same age as him that he's grown up with, that they spend an enormous amount of time together. I can tell you that on my ex-wife's side of the family, her sister's all but living there right now, from what I understand. Her son, their cousin on that side, has had access to Corbin. This order does not allow for his cousins that he's grown up with to even spend a minute with him. By the way, all of this could have been resolved if either the mother would allow it, or if he was in a place that didn't control access like it was a prison.
I know we spoke about a little bit about this the other night. So, I could only imagine in a situation like this that it gets this crazy. What has it been like over the past several years that you've been going through this family law battle?
It has been a systematic demobilization of any sort of sanity um, in the family in which we live. Right? It is rights and privileges have been picked apart. It's almost been, in my opinion, it's almost been as if any time that me as a father has asked for something reasonable, something else was taken away. And it's been over the course of many years that it's been made clear to me that my position was to sit down, shut up, and take it. And I did, because I was told that's what was supposed to be best for the kids. Because if I spoke up, then I'd be slapped down. And the fact of the matter is, at this point, it's proven to be true, that they will slap you down if you speak up. And I'm beside myself that that any of this has existed up to this point.
Yeah, man, I don't know what is going on. I mean, across the whole world right now, but Texas, of all places, the things that we are hearing coming out of that area. I hear, I don't know if everybody's been updated on this. The fight for equal parenting last year, it was the biggest showing that I'd ever seen at the Capitol. I know they showed up at the convention. They won't even add it to the plank anymore. It's like if you are a father in Texas, you can forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, I think that it's plainly obvious to see by anybody that this whole thing is a joke. Like the family court system is a joke. That the hiding behind this guise of best interest of child is so subjective. And certainly in Tarrant County, they have associate judges. They get to rule on something so subjective as best interest of a child, and they certainly are ruling on something, in my case, so subjective as to how Corbin's last days of his life should be lived out. If anybody that thinks that this child wants 2 4-hour blocks a day, but to not see me on the 5th day during his last days is acceptable, I'd love to hear why. I would love to hear why any child should be put in that position. And I'd love to see anybody explain to me why 2 grandparents that have been heavily involved in this child's life are limited to saying goodbye to 90 days on Father's Day. I mean, who the hell wants their Father's Day to be remembered as the day that they got to say goodbye to their grandson for 90 minutes and they never get to see him again? Like, this is absolutely insane.
So Paul Andrade here said, was there previous incidents that led to the mother doing this?
No, the previous incidents are the fact that she has been excused for very inexcusable behavior, and she has been allowed to alienate. And every time that it's been brought up, it's been without impunity, and nobody cares. And that's the instance. She's emboldened to behave this way, and quite honestly, I don't blame her. She has been given free access to act like this.
So I think some people on the outside that that follow the page might be some people that have never seen just how contentious this gets. So when they hear this, they think there's just gotta be some reason, right? They don't know what goes on in this thing that we know as this family court. I think for anybody that's been involved in it or that's been here, it doesn't shock you one bit whatsoever. But for most people, they just can't wrap their head around, how can this be true?
Nobody knew how cruel the Germans were until they discovered their concentration camps either, except for the people that were living in them. Like, absolutely. Like, you just sometimes some things are just so horrific that you can't wrap your head around that it's even humanly possible. But it's humanly possible, and it becomes a thing that's acceptable. Like, these things become acceptable in these court systems because that's just the way that it is. And everybody's told that you can't say anything about it. Right. And yeah, if you haven't lived it, you just don't know it.
Absolutely. What about you? So you got another child that's involved.
I do.
With this. in this current situation, like I know you said like you thought it would be good that he would be with his brother during this time too.
100%.
Was yeah, did you volunteer for that, or how did that discussion go?
No, but listen, knowing that the end result would be that Corbin would not be able to leave this the house of his mother, and allow him like to truly live out the rest of his days in peace, with the people around him that loved him. Knowing that, I volunteered to, even though I should be getting possession of his older brother on Friday, that for the best of Corbin and for the best of his brother, that no matter where, I mean, like I knew where this would end up, that he should, despite the current orders, be allowed to spend his time with his brother. Because again, that's what's the best thing for Corbin and the best thing for his brother. So I've waived that and asked him to put that in the order, despite where, and you know, the order does say that if his brother wants to, once James, that's absolutely correct, man. But if his brother wants to get away for a little bit, the order says that if he's looking to escape for a little bit and get out and come see me, that he can do that. And I plan on making sure that if that's something he wants, that's something he gets as well.
Yeah. How do you think he would feel about the arrangement that they've gave?
I'm not real sure it's proper to discuss it with him, but I'm fairly sure he wouldn't be real happy about it, man. It's hard to speak for him on this, but he's probably certainly disappointed if he knows that that Corbin's cousins and family can't be there, and that his grandparents were granted the opportunity to say goodbye to him for 90 minutes and then walk away while he's still alive.
Yeah. Does he know about the diagnosis?
He does. His older brother does. Yeah, he knows.
I'm going to read out a few of the questions from these guys. Leslie Hernandez said, have you tried reaching out to your ex and explaining to her that you are going to miss him and that she is going to miss him, and that you'd like his last days to be spent seeing the two of you getting along? It just seems like so much energy is being spent continuing this power struggle between the two parents.
Leslie, that outreach happened at the diagnosis of Corbin. I reached out and said, hey, listen, like things have been contentious, but like we need to focus on Corbin. And there was never a response back. And it's not only was it contentious then, it's just she has gotten more contentious since then.
Absolutely. I'm curious, what did the caseworker tell you about all this? What did they testify in this particular case?
The biggest walk away from that was that, you know, Corbin's desires, like that he loves his parents equally, right? That he wants to spend time with both of his parents equally. You know, I was very transparent with her about how I thought things got to this point and how I thought that the court system had failed everybody involved. She testified that I had absolutely no pride in where Corbin spent his last days, but I did have concerns over how his last days were spent. You know, I asked at the end of the hearing if there'd be a report to be done by the social worker, so that I may get a copy of it, so that when people ask questions about that, it's just as easy as explaining, like an independent third party came to this conclusion, right? And this is what the child had told her. But I was told that though per norm, the social worker would produce a report, but because this was an emergency, there wouldn't be a report created. I I'll be getting access to that regardless of whether or not that report was created or not. And I'll be happy to share it with you in the future as soon as I get it.
Yeah, guys, I have had tons of questions coming in about this particular case. So if you got some, put them down there for me, and I'll try to get them to David. I mean, where are we kind of at with it right now, man? Is it? I don't know if you can talk about it or not. What you would like to see going forward.
Sure. So, as you can imagine, I'm not real happy with the outcome of this case, and yet I find myself in a position where, as a father who loves his child, that can't allow this in his wishes to be ignored. I've filed an appeal, and I plan on going before the elected judge and not the associate judge in this case, and having the same hearing again, and praying that it's done quickly enough that this can be resolved before Corbin's life's over.
Yeah, man. One thing I've heard so much is different people reaching out and saying, "How can I help?" They're wanting you to contact. They're saying, "I'm reaching out to him. He's not answering message." There's got to be a lot on your plate right now.
I bet you I'm averaging like maybe 3 hours of sleep a night right now, and the rest of it's filled with trying to do everything I can to resolve what's in front of us.
I don't know how you do it, man. And I don't know how. I mean, like, kudos. I mean, like, I have a lot of respect for you because, I mean, even this situation, it's taken a toll on me. I can only imagine what it's.
Eric, this thing's been so. First of all, I'll address what you first said, and how I do it is, because I keep in mind what it is that I know that Corbin wants. Right? That's simply what keeps you going, like in something like this. And to your other point about the emotional aspect of it is, I've seen court staff crying about this case. I've seen a court reporter breaking down in tears in the middle of this case. I know that this is a very emotional case for a lot of people, and it's really emotional for me. My attorney is absolutely amazing. Her name's Randy Harden, and she works for a firm in Fort Worth called Kyle Whitaker, and she could not have and continues to be an absolute angelic human when it comes to this, and she's done an incredible job. She and I have cried about this case. I know that when we're not even talking about it, she's crying about this case. I was informed that another family law attorney heard about this case and began crying in the middle of another courtroom last week. And it's very emotional. And the truth of the matter is, one of the negative side effects of all that's going on is I should be starting a grieving process right now. And I have not even began to do that because I simply haven't had time. And that's one of the realities of what's going on. But I wouldn't have it any other way if it has to be this way. I couldn't imagine sitting by and allowing somebody 30 minutes a day of access, or 15-minute FaceTimes of access, or quite honestly, 4 hours a day of access with my child. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to me. It's unacceptable to Corbin. 90 minutes for for his grandparents to say their goodbyes on Father's Day is unacceptable. My grandmother, his great grandmother, can't see him. His aunts, I think one of them actually commented earlier, can't see him. His uncles, my uncles can't see him. His cousins, it's unacceptable. So to answer your question, how I keep going, I really don't know, other than the fact that I'm just motivated by doing the next best thing. In front of me, the next best thing is Corbin.
Yeah, and this might be a bombshell to some of you, but a lot of you probably from Texas would not be surprised. We won't go too deep into this, David, but I just got to ask you, in the family court battle, I know you said your ex had an attorney. Would you mind telling me who that firm was?
Sure. At the time that initially during temporary custody hearings, she had not prevailed. I had prevailed in the initial custody hearings. She de novoed and hired Coons Fuller, and lo and behold, went in front of the at the time Nancy Berger, who's since retired, and prevailed. And things have escalated in a very horrible way on a weekly basis since then, for the lives of my children and myself and my family.
And I just wanted to point out for any of you that isn't aware, two people that you might know, Jeff Younger and Robert Garza, both went up against Coons Fuller in that area too. I'll leave that one there, but I had to ask about it. I ain't scared.
There's I mean, I don't know the validity to it. I've always, the rumor is that there's possibly something that doesn't smell so good in Denmark about that, but I don't know the validity or have any proof otherwise. I don't know.
Charlene Wagner said, I wonder, is Corbin aware of these decisions that are being made denying him of seeing his father?
He does not know, as far as I know, he does not know of any of the court situation. I certainly haven't spoke to him about that. I've respected that he doesn't know about the end of life coming for him. The only indication that he would have is that the social worker interviewed him a few days ago, but he's been in and out of hospitals where he's dealt with social workers in that setting anyway. So he probably didn't think much about it. But he certainly did seem a little relieved the day after he spoke to her when I talked to him. And I'm not sure if it's because somebody finally asked him whether or not in his life how he would like to spend time between his parents. I have a feeling that that's exactly what it was, but no, he has no clue as to any of this.
Mark Fiddleman asked, why do you think that the judge ruled this way?
There's so much speculation in the answer. I really couldn't answer that. I can simply say that why he did it, I don't know. I'm not sure a lot of people would find it acceptable, but I couldn't tell you why.
No, I got you, man. Has there even been any talks with you about? I mean, I've had several people asking the comments. I kind of really wanted to dodge that question, but I guess it's something. Have they talked to you about any after plans? If that time comes.
No, it's been asked. The court says that they do not have jurisdiction over what happens with burial plans. I have relayed my wishes to her sister, who I was initially having to schedule time with, Corbin, 30 minutes at a time, and have not heard back. I have a feeling as to what that's going to look like. And it will probably be in complete contradiction of what my wishes were. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
So you're going to get these. So we're going to bring them up so we can talk about them. But anonymous, I guess they don't want anybody to know who they are. So can you be sure to cover why he was only allowed to FaceTime his son? That stuff doesn't get granted for nothing. Was it something he did? False allegations? What? We're still looking for a reason, David, as to why this is going on.
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, that order about the FaceTime was more restrictive than the insanely absurd 30-minute blocks that I could have some days. So I really couldn't answer that question.
And so to answer some of you guys' questions, there's fathers out there. Sometimes when they get these orders, they might be able to get one FaceTime a month.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll do that for a while, and then they're going to put you on supervised visits. Then they're going to do this. The system is nuts. I don't know how else to put it to you. Everybody's looking for a reason. We wish we could find it too, but
yeah, and at the end of the day, Eric, there are some good family court judges, right? There is. It's
absolutely.
not as if every one of them has got no contact with reality, right? And I'm sure that even good judges will make bad decisions sometimes. But when there's a court with a history of stuff like this and the extreme actions in relation to orders, it's a historical issue that ultimately nobody cares about. Judicial races are not on the top of the minds of most people's cares and concerns, right? You know, some people don't even realize that judges are elected, right? They don't know. But if you look at the contributions made to even some city council races will spend and outraise some of these races. It's and if you look at the people that contribute to the judicial races, you're going to see that it's attorneys, right? The attorneys that appear in their court, and it's a whole system of insanity. And then sometimes you get people in power that either lack common sense or civility, or just have a God complex. I mean, it's all of that and more. But yeah, it's a terrible system.
Okay, so it was another follow-up very similar to that one. Tina Bash said, what has your ex stated about you that has swayed the judge to act upon her words?
What has not, she said. I mean, there's no telling. I couldn't get into the judge's mind. I'm everything from I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a mother. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I don't know. It's don't know. I couldn't get into his head.
I gotcha. Mike Manny Whitney said, does your son wonder where you and your relatives are?
I would have to think so. He's going to wonder why, and he's going to wonder why he's not going to be at my house this Friday. In the summertime, we do 1 week on, 1 week off. And he's going to wonder why he's not there. Now, it is interesting that during the hearing, my ex stated that he's there, he's stuck there because he's in hospice and he's just not mobile, right? Like, unfortunately, we're stuck with this position. Just minutes before getting on, I was told that he's going to be transported to a hospital 30 minutes away to get blood products at the hospital in lieu of getting those blood products in home. Living 2 miles apart, I don't see that couldn't have been facilitated to change houses where hospice would be held. So again, it's one of those things that's those tactics in court where you convince somebody that this is the case, and then lo and behold, like the next day, it's off to the hospital instead of having the product delivered in home. So I'm glad that he's getting the product. He needs the product. That's not the problem at all. I mean, obviously, I want him to have that, but creating these false narratives about the impossibility of a situation to take advantage of the system to allow them to do this is exactly the kind of stuff that goes on, certainly in my case all the time, and I'm sure in cases across America every day.
We had a user ask, do you think your son knows deep down inside what's going on?
Yeah. Corbin's an extremely wise, behind his years kid, and he's always preferred to be in a room full of adults that he could talk to than a room full of kids that he didn't know. He's very intelligent. He's very intuitive. Before his treatment started, he was very mature for his age, and since his treatment started, he certainly had to mature and experience things that most adults don't have to. So I would say deep down inside, in his heart, he probably knows.
I know you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to answer it again. Anthony Cancel said, does David have an attorney? Sorry if I missed that, if it's been answered. No, you said you do. And one of the things I'd like to point out, even though things might not be going your way, you spoke very highly of your attorney.
Yeah, Randy Harden has been the most of a handful of attorneys I've had to use. Hands down, has been one of the best gifts I've been given in the last couple of weeks. She has done an absolutely amazing job. And she's based out of Fort Worth. And if anybody in Fort Worth ever wants like really good legal representation, she's with Kyle Whitaker's group and does an absolutely amazing job.
That same person, the anonymous on YouTube, said they just can't get past the fact that like something had to happen to get this with the FaceTimes. And then again, I'm gonna reiterate this. This is something we see all the time inside of court.
Yeah,
people are thinking there's got to be some type of allegation. There's got to be some type of abuse. There's got to be something here. Why would they do this all the time without allegations? Put them on FaceTime. We see it.
It's just, I mean, I don't know. She would certainly claim that things would be contentious, this, that, and the other. And then would say, well, you can come over for 30 minutes. Okay. Like, which one is it? Right. Like it is what it is, right? The contentiousness is one-sided, if at all. I mean, there has been no contentious issues at all there.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, you got no shortage of people here saying, again, what can they do? I know you said prayers, and I guess I'll let you answer that. But I mean, I would think the biggest thing is, guys, is just kind of stand back and stay tuned. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm sure you're working on things as quick as you can.
So my promise to you is that I'll keep everybody updated the best that I can when I can. In the meantime, if you would just say, a few prayers for Corbin when you have the opportunity. And what I don't, again, just to reiterate, please do not reach out to the courts. Please do not threaten anybody involved in the case. Corbin's mother, mother's family, nobody, please don't do that. Like it's not only like counterproductive, it's not what I want. So if you're going to put your energy somewhere, don't put it there. Put it in prayer. Think about donating to a St. Jude's or another hospital if it's in your heart, but don't do that. Just do something positive.
I'd like to say too, I heard, I was very excited when we came on here and gave that. I heard there was lots of people that had called and we never instructed people to do any of that. And guys, you got to be really, really, really careful with
Nobody's
stuff like
going to focus on the million good things that are done. Everybody's going to focus on the one bad.
That's it.
And just don't be that one guy. Like, right? Just don't be that one guy. Just do something good. Don't do something negative.
Chris Farrell said, why do you think the caseworker doctors and nurses who know love heals not demand the halt of apparent hate of a terminally ill child?
Because they don't have the power to order it. I think that any one of those people that you mentioned would absolutely prevent this from happening. I called Cook Children's Hospital in order to the caseworker that was assigned to this was asked to speak to Cook Children's. She said, hey, in order to cut the red tape, I don't have much time. Could you reach out to them, let them know that you signed a document that that says that they can speak to me and give me records, this, that, and the other. And I said, yeah, absolutely. I'll see what I can do. So when I called, I spoke to one of the staff there, and I said, hey, gave her my name, and I said, this is this is why I'm calling. And, Corbin hasn't been there in probably a year and a half. And the woman says, "Oh my God, this is sweet Corbin's dad. Like, how's he doing?" Everybody that meets him loves him. And they have spoken out against this. And there were patient advocates that stepped in, and there were physicians that testified. His own oncologist testified. But at the end of the day, it falls on deaf ears because nobody cares if you're simply a father. And it's unacceptable. And they've done everything to save my child's life. It's not them who has created this. They've tried to stop it.
This might sound like an incredibly stupid question because I know the answer to it, but do you feel as a father that you've been put on equal footing
in family court? That's not even that's not even worth answering. That's absolutely an insane question. Like, we all know that's not even close to reality.
I understand. I knew it would be
the furthest thing from reality that I've ever been asked. No, that's absolutely not the case. No.
Leading into the next question, Heather Cordova says, "Does the mom have sole legal medical?"
She does now. After we went to court, one time, whenever she had pulled Corbin out of standard protocol at Cook Children's, I explained that in the last podcast in fairly deep detail, but we ended up in a battle over that. The oncologist testified, did not want him to leave, gave like a 90% survival rate if he went through the program. And after that, I was given, not for both children, just simply for Corbin, she was given sole medical because of that.
Going through these, man, you got a lot of people pulling for you here. And I guess some people, they didn't get to see the previous ones. This happened in Tarrant County, Texas, correct?
Yeah. Anybody that hasn't seen the previous one, they'll probably answer some of the questions that are out there. But yeah, this is in Tarrant County, Texas.
I think that's about what I got, David. Is there anything you think we need to cover that we haven't went over?
There's as far as the update for today, like I said, that's about it. I'm sure that there's going to be more updates to come. I'm sure that there's going to be, unfortunately, it seems like there's going to be more hearings to be had. And I'd be happy to keep everybody posted. Like I said, just continued support. It's like, we feel it. It's a horrific place to be, but that's where things are at, Eric. And I'm sorry that I have to be the person that is even on your show. I'd rather be watching it than dealing with it, but that's just not reality.
I know this is kind of a question towards your heart too, so I had to go back up and find it. But Leslie Hernandez said, "David, when this is done, please help to make change in how these types of situations are handled. No child should have to be without his parent at his side when passing. Talk to the legislatures so that no other father needs to feel this anguish and pain." Could we see some of that from you in the near future?
You got my promise. Then Leslie, you will know me for a while.
Yeah.
You're going to know me for a while. This will end up being Corbin's legacy. This kind of stuff will stop.
Guys, a lot of people asking about the updates. David said there will definitely be more updates. We will do our best. We're not pulling away from this case. I specifically did not book anything this week or early next week, just so we have the platform in order to do this, man. And David, you got a lot of people here pulling for you. You got a lot of people pulling for Corbin. This is one of those situations where this is what the family court does.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate beast in government right now, man. It's just horrible.
Absolutely. Well, brother, you stick in there. Like I said, man, anytime, day and night, you got my number. And guys, as soon as we figure something out, we will be back. Is there
Thank
any way, because people keep asking, any other way that people could help you with this? And again, for the people that are writing the messages, I'm sure he is slammed right now. It's not that he's not wanting to talk to you or anything like this. I mean, this case got a lot of attention going on it right now, and so I
Given the
think at
time,
this moment,
I will get back to anybody that I possibly can, given the time. There's just been so many moving parts right now, and then the final ask, I guess, that you ask is when you're just think when you're saying prayers, think of everybody who's not going to be able to see them. Pray for my parents that won't see them past Father's Day. For my sister, my brother, his cousins, some of his friends. Like, just that's at this time, that's it. Maybe in the future we can do something to honor Corbin and maybe help prevent this kind of stuff in the future. But right now it's just one step at a time, and this is the step that we're at.
That's it. All right, brother. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, buddy. You take care of yourself.
You too.